Hey guys, so it's been a few weeks since I've done a movie review. I know I promised that I would do Captain America: The Winter Soldier when it opened. Didn't get to do that. Unfortunately, I had to have my wisdom teeth extracted, which was not fun. And so for a week or so, I couldn't really talk. And then there have been some other issues going on, and it's just been fairly busy. However, I'm going to make up for it, hopefully, with this. I'm going to be reviewing 3 movies in the interest of full disclosure so that you don't have to sit through the whole video if you don't want to hear this or you're afraid of spoilers, because there might be mild spoilers. The first 5 minutes or so is going to be about Captain America and how it relates to Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC. The middle section is going to be about Transcendence, and that'll be kind of short, just a couple of minutes, the sci-fi movie with Johnny Depp. And then I'll be transferring over to the last, 5 minutes or so are going to be about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I saw last night in 3D. And I will be trying to be as spoiler-free as possible while still giving my specific brand of analysis about these movies. So there may be mild spoilers. You've been warned. I will try not to give anything too drastic away. Captain America is going to be the hardest one as far as that goes, though. It's been out for about a month. I think most of you guys have probably seen it. So without further ado, I'll start with Captain America. Captain America was awesome. Okay, you guys, some of you may not know, but you guys that know me personally know that I am a DC guy. I'm much more invested in Superman, Batman. So like Man of Steel, Dark Knight, those are my movies. I go watch the Marvel movies because they're fun. I like watching comic book characters. But I didn't grow up with the Avengers or anything like that. My only real introduction to Marvel as a kid was X-Men, so I don't have really a stake in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that much. I really enjoyed Iron Man in 2008. I didn't like either of those sequels. I thought Iron Man 2 and 3 were both goofy. I did not like the first Captain America. I thought it was pretty boring. I liked the first Thor, and then I didn't really like Thor: The Dark World that much. So, and I didn't like the Incredible Hulk either. The only thing I've ever seen that I liked the Hulk in was the Avengers, which I thought was a terrific movie. So I'm not a Marvel fanboy, and I'm not a Marvel movie fanboy, but I'll say this: Captain America: The Winter Soldier has been my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe outing since Iron Man 2008. It was leagues more interesting and action-packed than the first movie. You get thrown right into the action, and it doesn't let up. Chris Evans is terrific. There's a lot you can say about it. It had a really engaging plot. There were a lot of twists. I think that the cool thing about it was how tightly paced it was, and it was very. I mean, the Winter Soldier, which ironically is one of the only comic storylines from Marvel that I had any kind of inkling of anything about outside of these movies. I really liked the way that this was handled in the film. The Winter Soldier is awesome. Spoiler alert, so skip this if you haven't seen the movie and you know nothing about the Winter Soldier storyline. It's Bucky, played by Sebastian Stan, and it was good to see him back. Bucky has always been my favorite Captain America character. Like I said, I'm not a huge Captain America fan, but Bucky's always been my favorite. So it's good to have him back. It was really cool. I think some of the positives about this movie is it was less cartoonish. It played more straightforward as more of a straightforward action movie. There was some great political commentary and social commentary about the overreach of government and things like that. So for people who really care to go and see a movie where they might be able to see reflections of their own political ideology or their own philosophy about the state of the world, you may have an added incentive for enjoying The Winter Soldier. it definitely left me feeling excited for a third Captain America movie. Um, and I enjoyed it a lot. I give it an A. I think you guys will really like it. I think Marvel people will like it even more than I liked it. I would rank it up there fairly high, in terms of the output of comic book movies in the last few years. So I liked it a lot. What makes it really interesting, I'm going to try to wrap this section up really quick. What makes this really interesting is that I've been watching Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. since it aired last year. And about the first 14 episodes of the show really were very, kind of just straightforward. I found them to be not that interesting. I'd actually fallen behind. I'd let 3-4 episodes stack up on my DVR prior to watching Captain America. And then the big sort of reveal in Captain America that S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't what it appears to be, and that's been infiltrated by other forces, which I won't spoil for the 3 or 4 of you that haven't seen it. That really threw a huge monkey wrench into Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you can now see why they had sort of been playing things close to the vest. The last 3-4 episodes in the run-up to the Season 1 finale, or I guess potentially series finale, they still haven't renewed it officially, but it's made all of that way more interesting. So Captain America succeeded on multiple fronts in terms of it just being a really good entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also making Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. worth watching again, and sort of being a payoff for those of us who have sat through the first 14 hours of it wondering, when is this going to get good? So there's that. So Captain America, A, go watch it. Alright, so Transcendence. If you haven't seen Transcendence, go ahead and skip to the next section if you don't want mild spoilers. Transcendence is the directorial debut of Wally Pfister. Many of you might not know who Wally Pfister is, but he is the guy who does all of the cinematography for Christopher Nolan. So this is the guy who shot the Batman trilogy, Inception, and several others. Some of his non-Nolan work includes he worked on Moneyball with Brad Pitt a few years ago. The trailer makes this movie look like it's going to be a run-of-the-mill sci-fi, evil technology goes evil. And I didn't know necessarily what to think about that going in. It had a Nolan-esque cast. Morgan Freeman's in it. Paul Bettany's in the movie. He's a good actor. And Johnny Depp, of course. What struck me about the movie was, it's not quite 2 hours, so it's not a tremendously long movie, but it's a little slow. It's kind of a slow burn movie. It's not. I mean, the plot actually escalates pretty quickly, but it's kind of plotting. This is happening, and then this is happening, and then it's building up. Now, whether the finale is something that you as the audience member feel satisfied by is going to largely just be on how you choose to react to the fact that this movie is not the stereotypical evil technology is evil. That's not what it is. The trailer was misleading. Johnny Depp's performance is very understated. And a lot of times, if an actor is understated, usually people who don't understand anything about the way that these movies work, wrongly assume that an actor is phoning it in, which is a really horrible thing to say about an actor, and I don't say that very often. I mean, I can count on one hand the time that I really think someone phoned it in. Liam Neeson in Clash of the Titans. But Johnny Depp was understated in this movie in a good way. it was the only thing Johnny Depp could do to keep from being Jack Sparrow. I mean, everything the guy does is Jack Sparrow. I mean, the Lone Ranger, which everyone hated, but I thought it was okay last year. It was Pirates of the Caribbean done again for the West. I mean, it, it was Pirates of the Caribbeans with Indians, and it seems like nothing that he does post the Jack Sparrow era is ever going to not remind me of Jack Sparrow. But this movie did a pretty good job of not really reminding me of Jack Sparrow. So, um, for those reasons that it didn't follow a stereotypical pattern of it's not that predictable in terms of like at the end it's not like he just becomes like a computer and then he's evil and that's it. That's not. I don't want to spoil it, but that's not what happens. And that Johnny Depp was good, and that the supporting cast was pretty good as well, and that Wally Pfister had a little bit of the Nolan touch going on, just a little bit, the little Nolan-esque vibe. I would give it a B minus. It was an entertaining film. If you like sci-fi, it's it's certainly firmly planted in the realm of popcorn sci-fi. It's not heady and high. It's not going to be what Interstellar is. The movie coming out in November that Nolan's doing. It's not going to be on that level, but you may like it. Okay, so moving quickly now. I want to end the podcast by talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Again, I've never been a magnificently huge Marvel Comics fan. I didn't read the Spider-Man comics when I was growing up. Watched a little bit of the cartoon in the 90s, but I always preferred the Batman cartoon. As a teenager, I went and saw the Sam Raimi trilogy. I liked the first one and thought 2 was okay. I thought 3 was horrible. So I wasn't against the idea of a reboot necessarily when they came around to do a reboot in 2012. I was skeptical as to the timing. I thought that they were rebooting it way too soon, and I think a lot of people kind of took a step back, like, really? And I think that one of the criticisms, and I think it was fair, that was leveled at The Amazing Spider-Man in 2012 was that it was, yeah, you changed a few things. Yeah, you got Emma Stone, she's Gwen Stacy, and yeah, Garfield's a better Peter Parker, but this still feels like we're retreading old territory. We're not really doing anything new. This seems like a lock, stock, and barrel Spider-Man movie, just like the other ones. Now, but having said that, The Amazing Spider-Man to me was just slightly darker tone, slightly more. Got a sense that there was a more well thought out direction that this series might be going. And because Garfield and Stone had good chemistry, the first movie worked. Despite a corny, ridiculous villain. Not to go off on too far of a tangent, but really, villains, there aren't many characters, even good comic book characters, that have many great villains. I mean, Lizard is not a great villain, so the first movie didn't have it just lacked a little bit of a kick. It was a good movie. I remember being pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed it. So, going into this movie, the trailers looked really packed with lots of villains and lots of Easter eggs, and they've recently announced that they're going to do a Sinister Six spinoff and a Venom movie, and they have release dates now for Spider-Man 3 and 4, and my reaction to that was, can we please take things one thing at a time? It's another thing. Going to Marvel Studios even, they have the films planned out through 2028 or something ridiculous like that, and I just think that that's very presumptuous, and I just think it's kind of goofy. I don't think that we necessarily need to be. I think each movie should be standalone, and they should work. Yeah, I just don't think you need to necessarily be planning 8 movies ahead in the movie you're doing right now. I think that your movie can suffer as a result. So, having said that, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm going to give the movie a B. And I'll start with all of the really good things about it. One, the movie's funny. I mean, Peter Parker is great. The one-liners are great. The humor is well timed. It's well delivered. Mark Webb and the guys that write the screenplay and Andrew Garfield have really captured the essence of Peter Parker. And any Spider-Man fan should be very pleased with that. The movie's charming and engaging. There is tremendous chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield. And obviously there's chemistry between them in real life. They have an off-screen relationship, but it really translates well in the film. And everything that they're in is, there'll be some people who say that it's too much. I think that there will be people who think that it's almost like that really awkward, uncomfortable feeling you get when you're watching New Moon. Not that I do that. Not that that should be a thing that you do. But if you've seen New Moon, that really awkward, at the birthday party towards the beginning of the movie, the awkward kiss where you just wish that Edward and Bella would get a room and leave you out of it. Yeah, there's a little bit of that going on in terms of it's just maybe it's too cute, but it really worked to me. They didn't overdo it. The performances all around, with one exception that I'm going to get to in a minute, were great. Garfield was terrific as Peter Parker. Sally Field was brilliant as Aunt May, just nailed it. Emma Stone was Emma Stone, and that's all we need Emma Stone to be, as Gwen Stacy. We thoroughly like and enjoy her character and her performance, so great. Jamie Foxx, he's playing a ridiculous character with a ridiculous motivation, and it's really hard to judge an actor who we know he's won an Oscar. We know he's a decent actor. It's hard to judge an actor when they're playing a role that ridiculous, but I would say that that on his end of the deal as the actor, he made Electro as interesting as he could with the material he was given. Dane DeHaan is terrific as Harry Osborn. I mean, this kid's a good actor. He's a very good actor. And he handled the material he was given well. The movie has a lot more heart and is more emotionally relevant and emotionally stirring than you might expect. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a pretty major event from the comic books in this movie that I kind of secretly thought that they just weren't going to do. But they did it, and they pretty much, it's slightly different, but they pretty much did what happened in the comics, and so I think that comic fans and Spider-Man fans can appreciate that. And it was very, very moving, and it occurs in the final act of the film, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And that was a tear-jerking scene. So now, for the bad. The villains. What has plagued the Spider-Man movies from Jump Street is the villains. Outside of Willem Dafoe in the first movie, it's just been goofy. The first 5 minutes of the movie, you're introduced to Paul Giamatti, who is eventually going to become the Rhino. It's a cameo, really. It's more set up for Sinister Six than it is anything else. But it's just so over the top. Paul Giamatti, who might be the best actor in the cast. Paul Giamatti is a terrific actor. Just goes full cheese, full over the top. And it's really goofy. That's a minor thing, That doesn't really dock it. It's just goofy. Electro. there's a lot of pomp and circumstance, and he has a cool power, and it was very stock though. Um, it's not, his motivation is really, really weak. I mean, legit, he pretty much just gets mad because people shoot at him when he's causing thousands of dollars worth of destruction and endangering the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of New Yorkers. And for some reason, he blames Spider-Man, even though Spider-Man is clearly like, Chief, we gonna get you the help you need. Don't shoot at my boy. And then they shoot at him, and then he's like, Spider-Man betrayed me! And it just, real shaky, kind of, I wasn't a huge fan of what they did with Electro, so continuing the streak of goofy villains in Spider-Man movies, yeah. Now, moving on. The one thing that I really had an issue with in this movie was the arc of Harry Osborn. The movie's 2.5 hours long. He's in it for about 30 minutes. Maybe a little longer than that. Within about 3 scenes, he's gone from, oh, this was Peter's best friend that we never talked about before in the first movie, to, oh, this one scene of them skipping stones is supposed to endear, the audience to them. And then by the 3rd scene, he's demanding Spider-Man's blood because he just needs to have Spider-Man's abilities so that he can heal himself for some disease that they threw into the plot. And he loses his mind. And I'm looking at y'all like this because I know some of y'all have a tendency to lose your mind too. And when I watch movies, I think, which one of my boys would be the one who loses their mind this hard? I'm not naming names, but this movie hit close to home because I just know my boys would have lost their minds. Now, literally, he turns into a psychopath. He just flips. I mean, he's here and then he's here, and it just feels very rushed. It feels like this is where the setup thing is really getting it. He just, the whole how he becomes Green Goblin is really, really convenient. I mean, it was, that was the weakest part of the script to me, was that they rushed that. They did not handle that well. And they kind of Harvey Dent it. I mean, for those people who criticized how the Two-Face arc in The Dark Knight, which I didn't criticize it that much, but for those people who clearly have never read The Long Halloween that claim Nolan didn't understand Two-Face, I hope that you're intellectually honest and you also have a problem with Green Goblin, because it's the same thing. It doesn't really make sense that Harry Osborn would give up this hard and go this evil this quick. I mean, Two-Face, that made way more sense than what happens with Harry Osborn in this movie. And then he's the Green Goblin for 5 minutes. He shows up at the end and he gets beat down hard. It's not even, it doesn't really showcase any of the Green Goblin's abilities. Once again, it's more of a cameo, a setup for Sinister Six. And that is my overall complaint of the movie. It's the reason why I don't give it an A. It's the reason why I give it a B. It's because this movie is too much setup. It suffers from sequelitis. It suffers from the burden. Even it's oddly paced. It's very dense. It kind of stumbles and it feels cluttered in several places. It didn't drag for a 2.5-hour movie. It did click along, but there was a little too much of this and not quite enough of this, and it just it's uneven. It is a good film. You will enjoy it, I promise you, but it's a little uneven. There's a little too much going on, which unfortunately is a growing trend in movies today. Now, I'm just gonna I know this is like 25 minutes long. Ugh. I'm just gonna very briefly touch on something. There is a mid-credits clip, but not an end-credit clip. There is a mid-credit clip that takes place during the Vietnam War, and it is of Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. This is not, I repeat, I want everyone to look at me and focus. This is not indicating a crossover between Spider-Man and X-Men. This clip, because of a bunch of goofy legal reasons, was forced into this movie. Mark Webb did not have a choice. There was some kind of strange clause in his contract that basically said he could not direct this movie if he didn't cross-promote Marvel Studios' X-Men Days of Future Past, which comes out May 23rd, for free in this movie. So some people might watch that and get really excited and be like, yes, they're finally crossing over with the studios. There has been no agreement reached between the studios. There is not going to be any crossover. It's simply a clip, a teaser of X-Men Days of Future Past. That's all it is. So you can, if you want to see that, great. If not, you can feel free to leave as soon as the credits start rolling. Alright, well, I hope you guys found these reviews to be insightful, mildly entertaining, and useful. If you disagree, or if you agree, feel free to let me know. If you have anyone else who you think might be interested in this, you can have them subscribe to my YouTube channel, Deny That to Africa. And I will be back in a few weeks. I'm going to do reviews for Godzilla and X-Men Days of Future Past. I'll also probably try to get a review up for Heaven is for Real, since I do most of the faith-based movies as well. So, hope you guys are having a good start to May. And as you can see back there, that is my it's my gown. I'm graduating from Full Sail with my creative writing for entertainment degree next week. So, awesome. Lots more movie news and reviews coming your way later. So, thanks for watching, and stay tuned.